It is 7:02 in the morning. The alarm did not wake you. The phone did. Not a call, not a text, a notification. $83 deposited overnight while you were asleep, while the city outside your window was still mostly dark. You know before you check what it covers. It is exactly your phone bill. The one that used to hit your card on the 9th of every month and quietly annoy you for 11 straight years, the way a small familiar tax annoys you, not because it's large, but because it never once asked permission. Not this month. This month, it paid itself. You lie there for a second before getting up. You think about the version of you from 6 years ago who kept a mental list of due dates, the way other people keep a grocery list. Rent on the 1st, card on the 5th, phone on the 9th, car on the 12th, insurance on the 15th. A silent countdown running in the background of every single day, whether you looked at it or not, whether you had the money or not. You remember checking your balance before buying coffee. Not because the coffee mattered, because the checking had become a reflex. The way you check your mirrors before changing lanes. Automatic, exhausting, permanent. You did not escape the bills. The bills are still exactly where they were. Rent still comes, the card still comes, the car still needs gas, and the fridge still needs filling. You just stop being the one who has to pay them. This is the story of how much it actually costs to make that true. Not one number, 7 of them, stacked, one bill at a time, until there's nothing left on the list with your name on it. $25,000. That is where it starts. Not a fortune, a little more than a year of aggressive saving. A little less than most people spend on a car they didn't need and will be paying for long after they've stopped enjoying it. At a 4% dividend yield, boring, unglamorous, the kind of number your bank's savings account will never get within a mile of, $25,000 pays you $1,000 a year. $83 a month. Your phone bill. 1 streaming subscription. Done. You did not feel rich when you hit it. You checked the app during your lunch break, at a table in the break room, saw the number, closed the screen, and went back to your sandwich like nothing had happened. Nobody at the table knew anything had changed. Nothing visible had. You still had the same job, the same commute, the same complaints about the same manager, the same fluorescent lights, the same 50 minutes of lunch that never feels like 50 minutes. But somewhere in a brokerage account you barely thought about most days, money you already owned, had quietly agreed to handle 1 bill forever without asking you for anything else ever again. It does not care if you get a raise. It does not care if you get laid off. It does not care what kind of year you're having. The rule, the first bill you cover is never really about the money. $83 will not change your life on its own. What changes is smaller and far more permanent. You now know, with certainty, not theory, that the mechanism works. Everything after this milestone is just repeating the same decision at a bigger number for longer without needing to believe in it harder. That next month, the dividend hits again. You do not move it to checking. You do not spend it on anything, not even the phone bill it's technically already covering. You click the button that says reinvest and watch the share count go up by an amount so small it's almost funny to look at. You smile at your phone anyway. Nobody sees it. That's fine. You were never doing this for an audience. $100,000. Your roommate is furious about a price increase. A streaming service just went up $4 a month. He posts about it. He texts the group chat about it. He brings it up twice at dinner, unprompted, like a personal insult from a corporation he's never met. You nod along. You do not mention that your account absorbed the increase before he'd even finished typing the message. At $100,000, the dividends pay $4,000 a year, $333 a month. Every subscription you own, the internet bill, and most of the electric bill in a normal month. You built this the boring way. You did not day trade into it. You did not find a hot tip. You added a slice of every paycheck, automatically, before you could talk yourself out of it. And you reinvested every dividend without touching it. And you let 3 years pass while nothing exciting happened at all. No windfall, no inheritance, just Tuesdays, repeated. Your roommate eventually asks how you afford to not care about price hikes the way he does. You tell him honestly that you just don't notice them anymore. He assumes you make more money at work. You let him assume it. Correcting him would take longer than the lie he's already telling himself, the rule. Somewhere between the first bill and the fourth one, the payments stop feeling like separate small wins and start feeling like a wall going up, brick by brick, between you and your own paycheck. Your income slowly stops being the only thing standing between you and being late on something. $250,000. This is where the electric bill stops being a number you glance at nervously in July and August, when the air conditioner runs all day and you flinch a little every time you check the app. This is where gas for the car, the water bill, the internet, the electric bill, all of it together gets covered without you ever moving a single dollar out of checking. $10,000 a year, $833 a month. Every utility you have paid by a portfolio, not a paycheck. We're standing in the driveway one evening when your neighbor pulls up in a car that is very obviously not paid for. He rolls the window down to show you. 0% financing, he says. Practically free money. He says it like he discovered something nobody else has thought of. You ask, mildly, what happens after the promotional period ends? He waves the question off. He says you're overthinking it, the way you always overthink things. He says that's the problem with people like you, always calculating, never actually enjoying anything. You go back inside. You are not enjoying your life less than he is enjoying his. You are simply not currently making a payment to a bank at 6.9% interest so that a depreciating asset can lose a third of its value by next spring while he still owes most of what he paid for it. The rule. Debt and dividends are the same mechanism running in opposite directions. One takes a fixed amount from you every single month for years, whether your life changes or not, whether you lose your job or not. The other pays a fixed amount to you every single month for years under the exact same conditions. Most people spend their 20s building the first machine by accident, one purchase at a time, and never find out the second one exists at all. $450,000. The car payment and the insurance, both of them every month, fully covered. $18,000 a year, $1,500 a month. The number that used to make you open your banking app and check twice before scheduling anything else that month. You get a message from a coworker about a compelling opportunity. He forwards you a stock. He says it yields 11%. He says at your balance, that's real money, more than double what your boring fund pays you. And he doesn't understand why you'd settle for less. You already know roughly what you'll find before you open the chart. You open it anyway, out of habit more than doubt. The price has fallen for 2 straight years. The yield isn't a reward for holding it. It's a warning dressed up as one. A company paying out more in dividends than it actually earns isn't being generous with shareholders. It's shrinking and calling the shrinking a payout so nobody looks too closely at the balance sheet. You tell him carefully to check the 3-year price chart before he puts any real money in. He buys it that same afternoon anyway. 4 months later, the payout is cut in half and the price is down another 25% on top of that. He stops bringing it up at lunch. You keep the boring fund. It keeps paying the car payment every month, on time, automatically, indifferent to headlines, indifferent to whatever anyone in the group chat is excited about that week. The rule. A yield that looks too good to be true is not describing an opportunity. It's describing a business in trouble, priced by people who haven't noticed yet, or have noticed and are hoping to get out before everyone else does. The safest number in investing is usually the one that hasn't changed in 10 years. $700,000. Groceries. All of them for the entire month. Every single one, from the essentials to the small unnecessary things you buy anyway. $28,000 a year. $2,333 a month. You walk through the store on a Sunday afternoon and let yourself actually notice what's in the cart. Instead of running the quiet math you used to do in your head at the register, item by item, watching the number climb before you even reach the belt. You are not visibly richer than you were last year. You still buy the store brand of most things out of habit rather than necessity. But the habit is a choice now, not a requirement. And that difference does not show up anywhere on your face. And it is somehow the entire point. The rule. Somewhere around this number, a strange thing happens. You keep living almost exactly the way you did when you had less. Not because you have to, but because the life you built while saving turns out to be the life you actually wanted the whole time. The upgrade you were quietly waiting for already happened. You just never needed a bigger house or a nicer car to feel it arrive. $1 million, 7 figures. The number that used to exist only in a category in your head labeled someday, or other people, or not anyone I actually know. $40,000 a year. $3,333 a month. Health insurance. The premium, the deductible contributions, the out-of-pocket maximum you used to budget for cautiously every January and quietly dread by December, hoping nothing had gone wrong enough to test it. You sit at the kitchen table during open enrollment, filling out the same forms you filled out for years. Your coworker is stressed at her desk the next morning, recalculating which plan she can actually afford now that premiums went up again, weighing a higher deductible against a higher monthly cost, doing math that used to be the exact same math you did. You already know your answer. It was decided years ago by a version of you who bought the same boring fund every single month and never once tried to time the market, never chased a headline, never skipped a contribution because something shinier came along. You do not say any of this out loud. There is no version of saying it that doesn't sound like showing off. So you say nothing, and you go back to your desk, and you help her compare plans anyway. Because knowing your own number doesn't make you a different person. It just makes one specific, recurring fear irrelevant to you personally. The rule: $1 million does not buy a different life. It buys the quiet removal of one particular kind of dread. The kind that shows up every open enrollment season and asks you to guess correctly how sick you might get this year. Most people carry that dread for 40 working years without ever setting it down. At this number, you finally do. $1,650,000. The last bill, rent, or the mortgage, whichever one happens to be yours. The biggest line on the page, the one every other number on this list, was quietly built around from the start. $66,000 a year. $5,500 a month. Every bill you have covered permanently by money that does not require you to show up anywhere on any schedule ever again. The average American household spends about $6,545 a month on everything combined, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Housing alone eats roughly a third of that. You're not average anymore. Not in the way that matters here. Every category on that list, housing, transportation, food, insurance, utilities, subscriptions, has a dividend sitting quietly behind it now, paying it, whether you are awake or not, whether you are even in the country or not. You did not need to be a multimillionaire in any dramatic sense to get here. You needed a number most people could reasonably reach in 15 to 20 years, if they started early and never fully stopped adding to it. And you needed to be boring about it, consistently, for longer than anyone around you found even remotely interesting to watch. The rule, covering every bill, was never one milestone. It was 7 separate, unremarkable decisions, made small and repeated until they quietly added up to something none of them looked like on their own. The phone bill didn't feel like freedom. Neither did the utilities, or the car, or the groceries, or the health insurance. Freedom only shows up once, right at the very end, when you finally add all 7 together and realize nobody sent you a bill this month that was still, in any real sense, your problem. It is 7:02 in the morning. The alarm did not wake you. The phone did. Not a call, not a text, a notification, rent, paid, automatically, quietly. The last one on the list. Somewhere across the city, someone is doing the mental math you used to do, running the due dates in their head before they've even had coffee, feeling that small, specific dread you remember exactly. You do not miss it, and you no longer need to. You make coffee. You sit at the window and watch the street fill with people heading somewhere they have to be by a specific time for reasons that used to be your reasons too. You do not check the account again. The math already did what the math does, quietly, overnight, without needing your permission or your attention. You did not get rich, not in the way the word usually gets used. You just ran out of bills that were still your problem.